before I say anything more. Okay, perfect. Awesome. Hi, everybody. My name is Rob Dahal. I'm a developer advocate here at AWS. I used to be a cloud engineer and former coding bootcamp instructor, software developer. Went through the whole, different phases of that tech career. I'm looking forward to having this workshop with you all. We're going to talk about vibe coding. We're actually going to do hands-on, and I have come with some free AI credits, some Kiro credits for an AI coding assistant tool where you can access the latest Anthropic models. Claude Opus 4.8 was released recently this week, or last week. I don't know. Time flies, but yeah, you'll be able to access that model to build your own website today, and we're gonna build a website using coding agents and a workflow that we use here at AWS at Amazon called spec-driven development. And we're going to talk all about it. We're also going to talk about some agent skills that you can implement alongside this spec-driven development workflow so that you can get the best out of your agents when it comes to actually getting the output you'd like. So hope you have an idea for a website you want to build today. Ideally, something front-end focused so that you can actually see the results of your prompting and engineering today. So yeah, let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and my screen should be sharing. Let me know if you can see my screen with the slides. It says spec-driven development agent workflow for front-end engineering. I'm going to show the slides real quick, and then I'm going to go back to the chat to see if you guys can see it. Perfect. Okay, cool. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and present the slide. All right, so let's get started. So the goals of this workshop is for you to get hands-on experience and actually build your own website by the time you're done with this workshop. So in the next hour and a half, 2 hours, you should have a website by the time you're done, or at the very least, progress towards the website that you want to build. And in order to build this website, we're going to learn spec-driven development and how to implement it step by step. And we'll provide you the tool so that you can apply this workflow. And the tool is called Kiro, K-I-R-O, Kiro. It's an Agentic IDE, similar to Cloud Code or Codex. It's AWS's tool. And we are going to provide you with free AI credits and step-by-step blog with all the instructions that I'll be following along with today. So if you ever feel like, maybe if I'm going too fast or if you get stuck on something, you'll have something to fall back on with the blog, okay? And also we're going to incorporate some really popular front-end engineering agent skills so that we can get really high-quality outputs as well. All right, so next slide. All right, so if everybody could just go to this URL. This is a shortened URL, but it should take you to a blog. And I'll copy this too. I'll copy this URL into the chat, into StreamYard. All right. Comments. I'm wondering if there's a way for me to share my. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm going to share the link in a chat here where our support staff are going to share this link with you in the chat. So if you just click on that, it should take you to an article. All right. And yeah, so once you click on that article, you should be in this page. It says the only Kiro configurations you need for your first project. We're going to cover this workshop step by step, and it has everything you need in terms of the links and the agent skills and the instructions that you need to do, all in this blog. Awesome. And one more thing. So I want you to, in this blog, go ahead and download Kiro. It's a free tool. Every month you get 50 free credits, which is plenty to do some pretty good engineering work. And I'm actually going to be providing you 500 credits for every attendee here. I'll give you that shortly. So if you go ahead and click on this download Kiro link, it should open up a URL that has a tracking code in it. So that should be able to allow you to accept the Kiro credits that I'll be sharing in just a second. And go ahead and download the Kiro IDE. We're not going to worry about the CLI tool, although this is an amazing tool as well. But we're just going to focus on the IDE for the purposes of this workshop today. So go ahead and download that. And I'm just going to give it a couple seconds here just to let everyone get situated as the tool downloads, because the next step, I'm going to share with you a Google Sheet where you will have the Kiro coupon codes so that you have free 500 credits that's going to be available for use for the next 30 days. All right. And I am in New York City, and there's construction in another building next door. So sorry if there's any side noise of like banging that you hear. Anyways, cool. Okay, so next, I'm going to share with you this URL. Also, you'll find it in the chat. I will go ahead and put it into the StreamYard chat. StreamYard. All right, this is going to be a Google Docs link, and the support staff here are going to share this URL with you so that you can access it. And once you click on it, it should take you to a Google spreadsheet, and I'll tell you exactly what to do when you get there. I'll just give it a couple more seconds for everyone to open up that URL in a new tab. And it's okay if your Kiro IDE is still downloading or just finished downloading. We're not going to need to open it yet. I'm going to first cover how you can apply the free credits towards this workshop. All right, cool. And if you're falling a little bit behind during this workshop, I'm trying to keep a good pace so that we can cover everything. But this is recorded. That's my understanding. And you will have a copy of this. And you'll have, just make sure you save this, the URLs that I'm sharing with you so that you can follow along in your own time if you ever fall behind. And also I have a step-by-step video also already recorded on YouTube, which I'll share with you at the end. All right, cool. So, yeah, so that second URL that I provided, just go ahead and, so each URL code is unique. So only one person, it's a one-to-one. So only one person can use a URL code. So just go ahead and insert your name as the user so that other folks know that that URL is taken. So if you're going to take a URL, please enter your username or just some name to indicate that that is taken, right? For example, here, if I'm going to use this one, this URL code, I'm going to put my name right here so other people cannot take my URL because each URL will be applied for one account. So I'll let folks do that, and I'll give it a couple more minutes. And please don't overwrite someone else's name. Try not to do that. If you see the box is already highlighted with some other user, try to pick a different box. Awesome. I'm seeing the names rolling in here. Very nice. Yep. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. You don't even have to pull your full name in there. You can just say used, like row 112 did, right? As long as it's known that no one else is going to use it and you know that row is yours, do it. But now if multiple people say used, then you might get confused, you know? The word confused has the word used in it, by the way. Okay, sorry. Had to use that joke. I said the word use again. Okay. Anyways, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna let you all continue doing that. Now, the step that you're gonna do is the URL. You're gonna copy that link. For example, for me, and I'm Rob Dahal. I'm row number 2. So I'm going to take this URL. I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to paste it. Let me just open up a different tab here. And when I press enter, it's the redemption. It's going to ask me to sign up or sign in to Kiro. So you can choose your preferred way of signing in. You know, Google's always easy with multi-factor authentication with Google, or GitHub. If you have an AWS build ID, and any AWS users out there, you probably may have that. If not, that's totally fine. Just use whichever one makes most sense to you. And in my case, I'll use Google, for example, and I'll just click sign in. And what it's going to do is, something went wrong while redeeming your Kiro coupon. Interesting. Hopefully that error doesn't happen for you. Let me check the chat. People are getting the error. I'm getting this error. Some tools might be unavailable due to heavy traffic in this file. Okay, if you're getting that error, that's okay. I think it's just a warning saying that some tools might be unavailable. But it's probably because the Opus models are in high demand right now, but it should be fine. We should be able to use it. So for some reason, you know, if I click on one of these coupon codes and then redeem it, redemption failed. Interesting. Let me see if a different coupon code works. I'm gonna go all the way at the bottom. I bet you. Okay, cool. Let me try this one. Taken by Rob. Let's see this one. Copy. And then we go to my browser here. Redemption failed. Something went wrong while redeeming your Kiro coupon. Let me know if you're getting the same error as me in terms of redemption error. Or let me know if it actually lets you apply the credits. It should apply 500 credits. I'm not sure why it's not letting me do it. Probably because they know that I work here. So maybe they're not giving me credits. I'm checking the chat here to see if there's any comments there from the team. No? Okay. Just let the team know if you were able to access your credits. People cannot edit the spreadsheet and names. Oh, you should be able to edit the spreadsheet and names here. I see a bunch of people have been able to use the spreadsheet names. You'll be able to put your names on column B. I see several people were able to do that. Okay, so yeah, I'm getting some errors here. Frontend Nation. Interesting. Okay, let me just check. Give me 1 second. Let me make sure. URL, bonus code. Yeah, this URL, Kiro.dev. Yeah, maybe there's some issues with the redemption. Either way, I think the 50 credits that come free with Kiro when you download it should be enough to get you some hands-on experience. And if there's issues, just indicate in the Google Sheet if you're having issues with redemption in the column here somewhere, in column C, so that I can keep track of how many people were not able to get these coupon codes. And I'll make sure that you have these coupon codes after this workshop at the very least. That must be some technical glitch. Okay. Either way, if the coupon code did work for you, it should open up your Kiro for you since you downloaded Kiro. And so this is my Kiro IDE. And in the accounts button right here, if I click on it, it would show that you would have an additional 500 credits, you might have to close Kiro and open it again, like this. And then it should show you how much credits you have. But at the very least, you should all have 50 credits for free, which should be enough for you to continue with this workshop. You don't have to include any of your credit card information or anything. So if you exceed 50 credits, it'll just let you know that you reached capacity, in which case I'll make sure to provide you with Kiro credits. Awesome. Let me check the chat real quick just to. Some say read-only access to spreadsheet. Okay, so it looks like for some reason some people have read-only access to spreadsheet. Interesting, but some people are able to do it, and for some people the link worked. For some people it failed. Okay, yeah, I'll make sure to keep track of everyone where the redemption failed. It looks like it's not a consistent issue. It looks like some of these codes are working. So if you have a redemption fail, try to use another box. Try to use another code if you can. Okay, don't give up yet. See if there's another open slot, because it looks like it's working for some people and for some people it's not. And if you don't have edit access, you should at least still be able to copy the URL here. So yeah, cool. Okay, so I'm gonna continue with the workshop, and all the steps are in the blog moving forward, and also there will be a video showing you everything that I did step by step, which I'll share with you. So okay, cool. I'm gonna close this. All right, so yeah, okay, so now we're going to go back to that blog, which was that first link that I provided you all. And we have finished this part already. Redeem Kiro credits. For some of you, the Kiro credits did not redeem properly. So I'll make sure you are provided that 500 bonus credits, especially for your time here today. I really appreciate you being here. I know it's a busy schedule for everybody, so I want to make sure you get your 500 credits. Cool. So I'm not going to read through all of this in the blog. You feel free to read it in your own time, but it's just going to cover some fundamentals about like context window and chat sessions. But I'm just going to cover everything you need to do right here. So we're going to start at agent skills. So first, we're going to import some agent skills into Kiro that are going to help us with front-end engineering. Feel free to pick any of these that you like. You can pick all of them if you want. I'm definitely going to be using the React best practices skills by Vercel, and also web design guidelines, and maybe even front-end design skill from Anthropic. So I'm going to use those 3 skills at the very least. Theme factory is also nice to have more variation of different themes for your templates. UI design is also a good alternative for UI interfaces. So I'm going to show you how to use these skills. So right now, there's, for example, for React best practices by Vercel, there's a URL provided here that takes you to the GitHub repo from Vercel Labs for their agent skills repository. And you'll see various different agent skills here. But we're going to focus on React best practices. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to see a skill.md file. That's the file you're going to want to click on. And what is an agent skill? Well, agent skill is just a set of best practices and in a combination of scripts or reference files or README docs and other context that could be provided to an agent so that they can incorporate the best practices for that particular skill. In this case, the best practices would be the ones from all the Vercel engineers that they've compiled in terms of best ways to use React in production and performance and things like that. So there's a skill.md file here that outlines to an agent how to use all these different skills. Another example here, within React best practices, you'll see this rules folder. You'll see a bunch of other markdown files that have like code snippets of best practices for different types of scenarios. You can review that in your own time. But for now, let's just focus on the skill.md file and copy the URL. We're going to copy that URL. And what we're going to do with that copied URL is we're going to go back to the Kiro IDE right here. And I'm going to open up a project. So that just means I'm opening up a folder. So open a project, and then I go to maybe desktop, new folder. Let's call this, I don't know, let's make a website about blog website. Let's do a blog website. Blog website. Create. So it's just going to be a folder called blog website that I created. Now I click open, and now my Kiro IDE opens up that folder. And this is what we're going to do. Remember earlier in that previous step where we copied that skill.md file? That URL to the skill.md file? Well, we're going to use that URL right here. On the left panel, you should see a ghost icon. Not the ghost with the thunderbolt, but just the ghost. And it sounds ridiculous, the words I'm saying. Not the ghost with the thunderbolt. Anyways, so click on this ghost icon. That's the Kiro icon, where you'll see the Kiro panel. And you'll see several different drop downs here. We're going to want to focus on the agent steering and skills drop down. So I'm going to click on that and click on the plus icon right here. What we're going to do is we're going to import that Vercel React best practices skills into our Kiro. You can see mine. I have a bunch of skills already, just because I've been using Kiro for a while. But I'm just going to click on the plus icon. And when you click on the plus icon, you'll see this menu. You're going to want to select the last option, which is the global agent skills. This just means that we're going to import these agent skills for Vercel React best practices so that they're available for any project when we decide to use it. So I'm going to click on global agent skills, and then I'll click on import skill from GitHub, and then I'll paste that URL of the skill.md file from the React best practices skill that we just saw. And when I press enter, it should import it for you automatically. For me, I already have it imported, so it's going to ask if I should overwrite it. I'll just say overwrite it. And you'll see a skill.md file here. And what it's done is it's imported this skill.md file and all of the other file references to this skill into your Kiro global configuration. So I'm going to pause here, and I'm going to show you exactly where on the blog we're at. So we took an example of this first agent skill, and we went to the skill.md file of this URL and copied that URL. And these are the steps we took to import the skill. On the left sidebar, click on the ghost icon, and then click on the plus icon for agent steering and skills. Import skill from GitHub, right? And then we paste that. So yeah, that's basically what we did. And you can do that one more time for another skill. You can do web design guidelines. And for this one URL, I've provided you directly to the skill.md URL. So you can just click on that. I'll copy this URL, go back to Kiro, ghost icon. Agent steering and skills is where I'm going to click the plus icon on. And then I'm going to choose global agent skills, import skill from GitHub, and paste the URL to the skill.md file. And I'll press enter, and it should import that skill as well. And then, yeah, let me just check the chat to see how everyone's doing. How's the pace so far? Are you guys following along so far? Going too fast? Just doing temperature check? Because it's important to me that you have everything set up properly so that we can have some fun in just a couple minutes from now. All right. I'm checking the chat. I don't see any warnings or anything. So, okay, perfect. So let me go back to the blog. And one more, I'll do the front end design one by Anthropic. This one is to make the UI better looking, like more sleek, more, modern, right? Web design guidelines is for more about correctness of the UI. React best practices is more about correctness of just the front end app itself, like the React overall performance and optimization. So yeah, this skill is for React performance and optimization. The web design guidelines is for correctness of your UI interfaces, like how they're nested, how they're layered, things like that. And this last one, front end design, is for making it look better. So this is more about the overall look of it, right? So I'll copy this skill. It takes me to a skilled, front end design. Oh, sorry, there's a HTTPS. That URL just is a little bit off on the blog. So I'm going to copy this URL and send it to you in the chat as well. Sorry, that blog was missing the H in HTTPS for this last skill. So you could just copy this URL like this, or if you click on it, it'll take this. Remember, there's a missing H. Cool. Anyways, so there's the skill.md file for front-end design. I'm going to copy that. And then back to the ghost icon, agent steering and skills, click on the plus icon, and then choose global agent skills option, and then choose import skill from GitHub, and then copy the URL, press enter, and it should import that skill as well. Awesome. So we imported 3 skills. I imported 3 skills. If you're really fast, following along, and you imported all 5 of these, that's totally fine. These are my top 5. So these are my top 5. This is my starting 5 for this workshop. Cool. So we've imported agent skills. So now what? Let's talk about spec-driven development, right? So if I continue to scroll down, this is kind of breaks down what a skill is and the anatomy of a skill.md file. You can read that in your own time after this workshop. What we're really going to focus on, we're going to skip past steering files. We're not going to do that in this one. We're going to go to step number 4, spec-driven development. Awesome. So let's say I wanted to build a portfolio website, right? Here's the prompt. If you want to follow along with the exact prompt I'm using, you can copy this prompt. Or if you have a different idea for a website you want to build, just keep it front end focused, because the skills that we're going to be applying, the agent skills we're going to be applying, are going to be related to front end. So in order to get the most predictable outcome, just make sure your prompt indicates that you want it to be a front end website, right? So if there's any data in the back end that you want also incorporated, I want you to prompt in your prompt to say something like just create fake mock data and mock API calls, but focus on the front end only, right? So I'll copy this prompt, and this is the prompt about building me a modern, responsive, personal portfolio website using React and Tailwind CSS, right? That's front end. And then, about me, I can fill in my name, my current role, right? So I'll copy this prompt, and I'll go to Kiro, and you should see in the chat window the vibe versus spec, right? Vibe or spec. We're going to go to spec. We're going to do the spec-driven development workflow. Spec just stands for specifications. So this means that from our prompt, it's going to generate detailed specifications of the requirements, criteria for testing the requirements and features for the app, how it's going to be implemented, the architecture, and then break it down into subtasks for the agent to follow using sub-agents. That's what's going to happen. So I'm going to choose the spec option, and I'll paste that prompt from the blog, and I'll go ahead and fill in my information. And if you want to provide it some photos of yourself, or if you have any assets that, if you're creating a pet shelter website and you have some photos of some dogs and cats you wanted to include, I'll show you how to do that in just a second. So for now, I'll just say Rob Hall. I'll just, kind of update some of these information. Title, developer advocate, and then bio. I love pets and basketball. I love pets, basketball, and engineering. And skills, I'll say I have no skills. I am useless. All right, perfect. Experience. I have laughed a lot and cried even more. That's my experience. All right, I'm just putting in some information here. Cool. So then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press enter. And what it's going to do with this prompt is it's going to generate some documents, some specification documents. And before it generates it, it's going to ask me some questions. So the first question it's going to ask is, what am I trying to do? Well, I'm going to choose the recommended option here, which is build a feature. So if I'm trying to build a new app, or if I'm trying to build a new feature on an existing app, right? Those are both classified as the same option. So build a feature, and I'll click submit answer. And if you have any photos or assets that you want to provide, you can also include that as attachments, like this, in this attachments. And then, if I had like a folder, desktop, I think I have some photo of me right here. Open. Also use this photo for my site as me, right? But before I submit that, it's actually asking me another question. What do you want to start with? I'll say requirements. Okay, I'll say submit answer, requirements. And now what it's going to do is it's going to generate a detailed requirements document that's going to outline all the features that a user should be able to perform in this app. And acceptance criteria, which is like just a technical wording that's measurable, that the agent can verify if those user stories are working properly or not. And you'll see an example of what I'm talking about once the requirements.md file is created. And I haven't submitted my photo yet, but if I try to submit something in the chat again, it's going to interrupt this current process. So I'll probably just not even submit my photo at this point right now. You can always add your photos at the end once the app is created. It'll have some placeholder boxes and divs where photos can be. So yeah, we're just gonna let it do its thing. And while it's doing its thing, right now it's reasoning and generating detailed requirements. And the way that it's generating these requirements is in the same process that an Amazon engineer would have been trained to do for the past several years. It's just built into how Kiro generates these requirements. It follows the same process that Amazon follows when it comes to software development lifecycle. So that's why it's a trusted tool among enterprises, because it is AWS's implementation of not vibe coding, but we like to call it spec-driven development, or vibe engineering is another term. Cool. So it's going to just do some reasoning and analysis of that prompt and generate requirements. And really it's going to get granular. And we're going to see the output of that file in probably a couple minutes. And while it's doing that, I'm going to check the chat. The front-end design skill link is broken. Okay, yeah, I see that. Front-end design. I'm going to copy that URL. Oh, yes. Hey, Maria, I have posted that URL in the chat one more time. Yeah, there was a missing H. Sorry about that. I'll update the blog accordingly. Should have had an agent write it so I don't make typos. Anyways, cool. Yeah. So keep an eye out on your chat window. It might ask you some more clarifying questions. So think about like a product manager in the software development lifecycle, right? Or a consultant, right? Or engineer. What are the types of questions that they might be asking when they're trying to build an app or trying to build an app for a customer, right? It's doing that. So right now, one of the requirements is the portfolio site shall render all sections in a single HTML page served at the / route, like the home route, right? So that's requirement 1.1. And it's asking, should GitHub Pages requirement override the implementation approach? I'll say, yeah, I'll go with the first option to allow for flexibility. So just choose whatever option right to you. There's no wrong answer. It's asking me another clarifying question for another requirement that it generated, which is the spec requires React as the UI framework, but if a developer accidentally uses Vue instead, should the site still be deployable to GitHub Pages as long as it meets the other static site requirements? I'll say no, it needs to be enforced that it's going to be just pure React without Vue. Okay. What about this one? Requirement 2.4. So it's asking me clarifying questions about the pixel size for the viewport width. Keep the current behavior where 768 shows expanded links. Or ensure clean mobile experience on all tablets, but removes full navigation from some larger mobile devices. I'll go with the first option. Okay. So it's asking you questions that are really going to make you think, which is a good thing because you don't want to just start vibe coding. You want to meticulously think and clarify and be very concrete about everything that you want up front. And that's really the main concept of spec-driven development, right? Here's another clarifying question. Yeah, I'll say this, click next. Honestly, for the sake of time, I'll just click the first option and click next on each one. In a perfect world, when you're not rushing through a workshop, when you're actually building at work, right? You're going to want to actually read through this and think about it. But I'm just going to pick the first option each time because usually the first option is the easiest implementation or the most recommended. So I answered 7 different questions from it already, just based on that one prompt I provided it about building me a blog website, right? We had this conversation back and forth with these questions and my responses. So that really helps it to get more detailed about what it's going to be building. And the more the agent knows in terms of clarity and alignment with your vision for what you want to build, the better your output is going to be once it actually starts to generate code. And it hasn't generated any code yet. All it's generating right now is going to be a markdown file in human readable language, like English or whatever language you have configured. Okay. So it's doing some reasoning and analysis based on everything and other dependencies. Let's take a look at the chat. Yeah, chat looks good. Awesome. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. And in the blog, I'm back at the blog. Yeah, Kiro generates the requirements first. And once it generates the requirements, we'll see what it looks like. It's going to be a markdown file. Okay. Yeah, you can see its thought loop and process. So, it's really taking its time to make sure it has everything very concretely laid out. And the wording that it's going to use in this document that it's going to generate is going to be very specifically and particularly worded in such a way that it follows prompt engineering best practices for large language models to generate the best next word, right? Or next code or next token. Cool. So I see an update. It says accepted some edits to this requirements.md file, where is this requirements.md file? How can I find it? Well, we're going to find it in just a second once it's finished with that. But by the way, Kiro is a fork of VS Clone with extended capabilities. So it's very similar layout. So in this, if I click on this file explorer icon, I will see it here eventually once it's complete generating the requirements. Right now, it's creating a file in a sandbox environment before it actually puts this file into our workspace. So once it's done with the file, we'll see it in our workspace. And if you want to see the progress, there's this view diff icon where I can click on it, and you can actually see what it's doing so far. Yeah, here's the requirements document so far, right? It's not done with it. It's still working on it. But I can see the progress so far. Matter of fact, let me increase my font size. Okay. While it's doing that, since a good amount of this requirements document is already generated. Okay, yeah, it has finished creating the requirements document. Okay, cool. And right now, this requirements document, if I go on the File Explorer, I'm not going to see it yet because it hasn't finished actually creating it. But I can see the progress of that document when I clicked on that diff icon here. So yeah, let me just start kind of covering what this requirements document looks like. So you can see a glossary, an introduction about this app, a modern, responsive personal portfolio website for Rob Dahal. Awesome. Glossary terms, portfolio site. That's the name of the website. There's a hero section, about section, skills section, project section, dark mode, light mode, right? Project card, placeholder project. Awesome. So those are formal glossary terms that it's going to be using to identify different components and parts of your application. So now it's stuck by a certain glossary. Like just like in every enterprise, you have your own company lingo. It's doing that basically, right? Now the requirements, you can see the first requirement. Each requirement is a user story that's bundled with acceptance criteria, which the user story describes the feature of how a user would experience the application. For example, as a visitor, I want to load the portfolio website at the home route so that I can access all content from a single URL. And the acceptance criteria is how it's going to verify that this user story actually works as intended. For example, the portfolio site shall render all sections on a single HTML page, or the portfolio site shall be deployable as a static site to GitHub pages. It shall use React as the UI framework and Tailwind CSS for styling, right? So there you go. Navigation bar, that's another requirement. And here's a user story for what the navigation bar should allow a user to do, and so on. So that's detailed, concrete requirements laid out for the agent. And this is important because as you're building out your app, whether it's something that's going to be more complicated, something that's going to apply layers and layers of newer features and integrations, it's going to have a running documentation of what the product should actually be doing in terms of the features and how you're going to test that these features work, which are the acceptance criteria. So that's the great thing about the requirements document. All right, so let's see if it's actually done generating. Okay, cool. Maybe I can see it now if I refresh. Or if I... Oh, yeah, right here. If you click on the ghost icon and then on specs, I don't see it yet. What did I click something by accident? Requirements exist, no design yet, generating design now. Okay. I will say I don't see the requirements.md file in the workspace. Sometimes you got to state the obvious to the agent. Of course, in the middle of a demo, it tries to do something that it hasn't done before, like not show the file. The spec files are saved under home, Kiro specs, personal portfolio, home directory. But your workspace is at this. So it saved it to the wrong file. Yeah, hold on. It's for some reason it's putting these files in my user home directory. So let me just tell it real quick. Put these files in the workspace directory. If I say workspace directory, it'll put it in this project. Because that was odd. Okay, cool. So now it's actually going to go ahead and okay, it created a .kiro folder. That's the folder where there's going to be the metadata about the specs. And I can see the requirements.md file. Perfect. Cool. Sometimes you just got to give it a little nudge in the right direction. Okay, cool. Now, here's our requirements document. In the real world, you're going to want to review over this with your team, make sure you're all aligned with the requirements and acceptance criteria. And then I will click continue. And once I click continue, click generate design, it should start generating a design document, which is a more technical, in-depth document that's going to outline the implementation strategies, the architecture, the component layout, more technical details. So think of requirements.md as a product manager and design.md as a technical product person or a senior developer that outlines the product manager's instructions into something more developer oriented. So it's generating the design document right now. I'm going to check the chat. Oh, by the way, so far the credits used just 0.87. Not that many credits so far, right? So you should be able to do this probably within the free 50 credits that you get anyways. So let's see StreamYard. Error, looking for a workspace root in any existing .kiro directory. Okay. I see something in the chat. Let me click on this URL where I can see the questions. Sign in. I don't have Google. Sorry, it's a little bit. Okay, I need to sign up. Okay. Join the hub. All right, let me just go ahead and sign up and join the hub here. Okay, so I sent my email. Let me open up my email here. I don't see any email from that. I'm trying to sign up for it so I can see all your questions. Email has been taken back. Interesting. Maybe the email takes a while to receive. I don't know. Well, it's okay for now. While the sign up email is taking a while, I'll just, oh, okay. I think I got an email now, just now. Perfect. Okay, here we go. I got the email so that I can participate in the same chat that you all are in, so I can see your questions. All right, so let's see. Okay, well, how do I see the chat? Okay, I can't see the chat. That whole thing. Sorry, that was driving me crazy. But okay, anyway, let me just check the link here with the private chat from the organizers. I don't see anything here. Okay, I'm going to continue on. Let's see if the requirements document, the design document is created. Yes, it is. Perfect. So let's take a look at the design document. Okay, design document, personal portfolio website. So it's going to talk about more technical details like mobile first layout, at which breakpoints, what dark mode is going to do, how it's going to persist the dark mode. It's using local storage on the browser, right, to keep track of that memory. Smooth scroll navigation using CSS scroll behavior, right? So this is just knowledge from Claude, Opus. It looks like I'm using Auto right now, but I can just go ahead and use Claude, Opus. Oh, yeah. If you have your credits applied, it should give you access to Opus 4.8. If you don't have, if for some reason that credits redemption part didn't work, it's going to give you like the earlier models, and that's okay. I'll make sure you guys have Kiro credits after this workshop. It'll take about 2 days if you weren't able to access your redemption code. But if you were able to access your redemption code, choose Claude Opus 4.8. So you can, you can go smooth sailing in this. Cool. So it has generated this document, right? Just using Claude knowledge. But I wanted to incorporate those agent skills into this design and requirements, right? So what I'm going to do is in the chat window, I'm going to say, update the design so that it aligns with relevant parts of. So I'm going to say update the design so that it aligns with the relevant parts, or update the specs so that it aligns with the relevant parts of these skills. And then I'm going to give it the skills that I want it to use by using the slash command. So I'll use slash. And then the first skill that we used, well, you can find those skills right here in the Kiro panel if you click on the ghost icon. And yeah, mine was React best practices. It was also UI design or web design guidelines. What else did I have? It was front-end design / front-end design. So I'm using slash and then typing in the name of those skills that we imported. And when I press enter, what it's going to do is it's going to load into the context window, and you can actually see your context usage right here for the context window, the circular icon. It's going to load that into the context temporarily so that it loads up all of those best practices from those agent skills that we saw on GitHub. And it's going to take whatever parts are relevant to the application that we're trying to build, whatever parts are relevant from those agent skills, it's going to take that and update the design document. And we can see what kind of updates it's going to make. So if I click on this view diff icon right here, for example, right here, right? So it added these 2 lines to our design. Distinctive aesthetic. So editorial refined visual identity with characterful typography, not generic AI slap defaults. And then there's also performance glossary, right? Static JSX hoisted, no inline components. These are from some of these best practices that we just imported. Right, we can continue looking at more diffs right here. If I scroll down, look for whatever is green. So now it also has some guidance on bundle discipline, and some of the guidance that it has, if you're a beginner developer, you might not even be familiar with some of these best practices. If you're a senior engineer, you might be more familiar with some of these, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, it makes sense for that to be applied for this particular website, right? It's a great opportunity to learn either way, because these agent skills are curated knowledge and best practices that engineers felt strongly about that agents should also incorporate. And what that means is if my agent is supposed to incorporate it, it's going to align that with my overall app idea and fit the most relevant parts of those skills into my design. And I can read through it and see what technical details from those best practices are also going to be implemented here. As a learner, I find that very valuable. For example, right here, this green addition right here, re-render functional set state. So toggle dark mode uses functional set state form to avoid stale closures. Wow, that's a nice React concept when it comes to front-end engineering, right? So you actually get to learn a lot of front-end stuff just by implementing spec-driven development with the best practices for front-end engineering, with agent skills. And you can see how it's thinking about this whole process. Almost like if you're interviewing an engineer and you had to ask them how you would deploy this website or how you build this website, it would say some of these things, right? It would mention some of these concepts. Cool. So it's updating the design document. I'll just close out that tab. Let it do its thing. And I will check with the StreamYard. Go to live streams and then track one. Okay. Let's see. Live streams. I see questions now. Okay. Why aren't the skills automatically applied rather than being chose manually? Great question. It's because it's sometimes it automatically activates those skills, but it really depends on the way you word your prompt. So just to ensure that those skills load up, I like to use those slash commands to answer that question from Falcon. Is history of changes that have been made able to be accessed? Yes, it is able. You are able to access it in the chat icon. You can actually see this icon for the arrow next to the diff. Yeah, those are the different histories you can revert back to. Should we have stated to use relevant skills in our very first prompt? Wouldn't that save credits? Yeah, great question, Ken. The reason I didn't do that in this workshop is I just wanted to show you the difference between the general spec-driven development documents and what it looks like after applying the agent skills. But in a typical workflow, if you know what agent skills you want implemented right off the bat, you would just do that as the first step with the spec. I just did that for teaching purposes, Ken. Great question. You're very close to the chat. Click on track one. Awesome. I'm in there now. Are all the workshops going to upload to YouTube? Yes. I wonder how spec mode Kiro compares to frameworks like OpenSpec. Similar, but it's Amazon's implementation of what they think is the opinionated best practice for the software development lifecycle. Sorry, I may have missed it, but what LLM model does it use? If your credits were redeemed properly, you're able to access the latest Anthropic models and other models. Otherwise, it's going to give you some of the earlier ones. And I promise to provide you Kiro credits after if you had issues with that. And it started running npm commands. Yeah, that's possible. It might start running npm commands if it's loading up some packages. Kiro created the requirements MD file. Okay. Cool. Yeah, you don't need to select anything in agent steering and skills. If you're not getting any response in the chat, just submit your prompt again. Looking for workspace root and any existing Kiro directory. Yeah, just let Miguel, just let it know that you want the specs created in the project workspace. And it'll do its thing. Scott, I never could import any of the GitHub URLs. I'm out. Do you have the latest Kiro version? Yeah, just now. Oh no, sorry, Scott. Maybe sometimes if you download the wrong version for your operating system, like I know sometimes in a workshop users download like the Intel chip version for the Mac rather than the Mac Silicon chip, and that can cause issues. So double check. All right. Yeah, there's lots of questions. Okay. Okay, I'm seeing the most recent at the top. Okay, cool. All right, cool. All right, cool. So my design document is created, and I can see all the changes and view all. And yeah, you can actually see what information from the agent skills have been applied to your design, right? Even like some code snippets are provided with some of the best practices, what to do with H1s and H2s, right? Colors, all that good stuff. So awesome. So my design document is ready. If I go back to the File Explorer icon, click on the design.md, you should see this interface here, UI interface, where you can click continue and generate tasks. Now, what it's going to do now is, so okay, in a perfect world, if you had time, right, you would review over this design.md with your engineering team as well, right? You'd actually spend as much time up front making sure that the specs are perfect. It sounds like a waterfall type of approach, but it's kind of where we're shifting back to again, because agents write code so fast that we must spend more time planning again. Right. So when I click continue, I was able to click generate tasks. And what it's going to do is it's going to generate a new file called tasks.md, which break down, imagine like Jira tickets, right? Specific concrete tasks you need to do to accomplish each feature or requirement. So it's going to take these requirements and incorporate the design document information related to those requirements and generate step-by-step tasks. Like, okay, it needs to set up a project using React. Which React library is it going to use? It's going to figure that out. It's going to set up maybe if there's TypeScript interfaces for, making sure that the data is in a certain format. Where's it going to write those files? It's going to basically be generating all those detailed technical steps in a step-by-step fashion in this tasks.md file. Let me take a look at the chat here. How are you using Kiro and AI at Amazon? Similar to how anyone would be using, an agentic coding assistant, but we definitely rely heavily on spec-driven development approach. Which extension highlights with colors? I think it's a Visual Studio Code extension I have somewhere. Highlights with colors. It said write one Mac version, no Intel. Sorry to hear that, Scott. I'll follow up with anyone that has issues after this. Creating the requirements is taking too long time. A prompt to create a platform to manage construction projects. Okay. Yeah, it can take a long time because it's really fleshing out those requirements. Collins said the redemption link worked, but the credits are still at 50. Arthur said, I'm having some hard time with WSL. Anyone made it? Arthur, yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide you all my LinkedIn so that you can send me all issues that you're having so that I can make sure that those are fixed for you. And also I can provide you with Kiro credits at the end of the week if you had issues with redeeming some credits. All right, cool. What if you have a Figma file? How do you use Kiro with it? Oh, yeah. Well, there's the Figma MCP server. You can connect with it, which is kind of out of scope for this lesson. We can talk more about that, maybe in a blog I can share with you. Or you could just import the Figma file, and Kiro has extensions that you can install to read the Figma files, just like you would in other IDEs. Yeah, so let's see where we're at right here back to my website process. So task list, cool. So it generated this markdown file. This is the last file of our specs files. So yeah, you see these Thunderbolt icons. You can just click on them if you want to, but instead, I like to click Run All Tasks. And what it's going to, so you can read through this, but every single action that it's going to do, this is going to be it actually generating code or generating files or packages, downloading packages. And they're all mapped to some of the requirements from our requirements docs. So everything is going to be done strategically to achieve or help achieve a part of a requirement or all of a requirement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Run All Tasks, and you'll see two options, Run Required Tasks or Run Required and Optional Tasks. I like to choose run required and optional tasks because it's also going to run tasks relevant to testing, unit testing and integration testing and so on. So I'll click on that. And then I go play basketball and come back. Just kidding. No. The first couple tasks, I like to babysit it because what it's going to do, especially if it's a front end project, if it's going to use Vite with React, the CLI is going to ask some questions when you try to start a React project, and you have to be there to like confirm some options, right? So when the LLM runs npm create Vite's latest blog website, that's going to result in a prompt that I have to answer on the Vite CLI. And it won't continue moving on to the next task until I answer that prompt, right? So sometimes in the beginning, after running all tasks, the first task, you're going to want to just babysit it so that it has everything it needs in order to build out the app. For example, take a look at this. So it's doing these tasks. Oh, by the way, these tasks, some tasks are synchronous, meaning that you can only do a certain task after a different task has been completed, right? But some tasks are independent. They don't need other tasks to be completed in order for the agent to be able to work on a different task. So that's why it's actually going to orchestrate these tasks using built-in sub-agents, which each sub-agent is going to have their own context window underneath the hood. It's not going to show you all that complexity, but it's just going to be applying some of those Claude code best practices automatically for you. So it's more minimalist in terms of how much you have to configure. And right now it's asking me for input right here. So the play button means I will accept this command. And the double play button means I will trust and accept this command, meaning I will allow it to run this command and in the future to not ask me about it again, right? I like to just do accept command. So now what it's going to do is it's going to run this command on the terminal that it's going to open up soon. And yeah, and this can take probably like, a couple hours depending on the complexity of your website. But you're just going to kind of let it run. And by the time it's done, what I like to do after it finishes all tasks, I like to run the app and see if it's working. And sometimes it might not load up immediately on the home page with everything that you wanted, or some features might still have some bugs in them. And that's when I use the Playwright CLI, which I'll show you a video on how to do that step by step with Kiro, where it's going to actually open up a headless browser for you and actually perform the tasks as if it's a user in these user stories and test it against these acceptance criteria. And by the time it's done, all these features actually work, right? So the tasks list run all task process is going to get you about 90% of the way there. And at the end, once it's done, it's that dreaded time when people have to open up the browser and manually click on buttons to verify every flow works. That's when I like to use Playwright CLI, which I'll also provide you a link to at the end of this workshop. But notice right now it's hanging on a command right now. It says invoking spec task execution, right? Why is that? Why is it hanging on a command? Well, you see that this terminal has opened up for me here. It's actually waiting for an input from me. So if I click on this terminal, I will say ignore files and continue, install with npm and start now. Yes, perfect. So yeah, that's just the Vite CLI that needs someone to confirm some options. Right now it's running the boilerplate Vite app, right? So now it's not stuck anymore. And you can see here, if I click on this drop down, I can actually see a progress of what it's doing. It's working on this task 1. Cool. So it looks like the server is running. Let me just press Control C to stop the server from running. So that it can continue doing more commands on the terminal that it needs to, as if it's a developer doing its regular thing. Right now it's installing Tailwind. Right, so let's see what tasks are completed so far. Yeah, task 1.1 is in progress. 1.2 is in progress. So the first couple of tasks take a little bit longer, but then it starts to speed up with the rest of the tasks. And you might be wondering, okay, what about the context window? What it's going to do, Kiro is programmed in such a way that it automatically creates a new chat session once it reaches a certain task where the context window is not optimal for the large language model to do its best job. So it's already configured that way by our engineers. Cool. So yeah, it's doing its thing. And one more thing I wanted to talk about for this tasks.md file. If I scroll all the way down, you'll actually see this dependency graph of which tasks depend on other tasks. So for example, tasks like the agent cannot complete task 1.5 until task 1.4, 1.3, 1.2, and 1.1 are done, right? But task 13.3, it is not dependent on any other task. So it can actually facilitate a sub-agent or orchestrate a sub-agent to just work on task 13.3 independently without having to wait for these other tasks. So it actually has mapped all that out. Cool. So yeah, it's doing its thing, and this is not going to be done by the time our workshop is done, but that is spec-driven development. And just wanted to say one more time, I will provide you all with. What did he do? I see some questions. Okay, I see a first question. I'm kind of lost. What did he do before the design doc update with the skills? Great question. That was a while back. It's in this blog. It's all going to be in this blog, step by step, and I'll provide you the links to the videos that you can follow along with. And this is all recorded as well. So I know in a workshop, when it's hands-on, everyone has different paces. So I'll make sure that you have that. I posted that link there. Oh, oops. I posted that link. Post that link here. What is waves? Is it number of parallel agents which can run to complete the task? That's correct. That's correct. I see another question. Will Kiro launch Chrome browser in built-in browser or in VS Code to validate in the Chrome browser? Oh, refresh the page. If token linked worked, it will appear after some time. Thank you, Marius. Yeah. If your redemption link worked, you have to close Kiro and open it up again, and you'll see it. It's kind of like refreshing. Cool. All right. I think I'm caught up with the questions there. And you'll see some issues here sometimes, right? Sometimes it failed to invoke spec task execution. It'll just continue retrying in an agentic loop until it gets everything done. Right now, it hit the rate limit. So it's going to execute the remaining tasks sequentially. So right now, I'm in the free version, and my credit redemption part didn't work when I was trying to redeem the credits, right? But if your credit redemption works, you should be able to access Opus 4.8, which is going to be much better. So I'm probably not going to even end up with like the best quality stuff just because of the foundational model itself is like using Sonnet 4.5, not even Opus, right? So keep that in mind. But the great thing is these agent skills and the specs that we developed along the way should help even the less capable models to outperform in many cases. All right. So yeah, that's what it's doing. And you're just going to let it finish all the tasks, and you'll actually see the check marks. For example, if I scroll up, you'll see check marks on these boxes once the tasks are completed. Oh yeah, actually right here. think, yeah. For example, right here, 1.1 was completed. So let me go back to the slides and yeah. A step-by-step YouTube video on how to do all this is if you scan this right here, it'll take you to my YouTube with step-by-step guide. Feel free to take a screenshot of this so that you can go to it later. You can message me on LinkedIn if you had any issues, and I'll make sure that you're squared away by end of this week. Here's the QR code to connect with me on LinkedIn so that you can we can connect and then we can exchange DMs. And I'll also be communicating with the organizers of Frontend Nation so that I can collect any emails of any participants who mentioned that their redemption code didn't work, so I can make sure that you have your redemption code. And lastly, I would appreciate hearing about how your experience was, if you felt like this was helpful in any way for you in your career and in your development journey. I would appreciate hearing from you about that in this feedback survey form. This is one question that's required and a second optional question.
All right, Rob. Did I jump in at the right time? I think you were just about done there.
So, yeah, you jumped in perfectly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't want to cut you off, man.
Yes.
Well, I think you have you've taken care of pretty much all the questions. Thank you for jumping directly in the chat there and asking users questions directly. So I don't have any more to share with you at this time. Do you have any closing remarks just from you and AWS here for day one of Frontend Nation?
Yeah. So closing remarks from me is, so I come from a non-tech background 10 years ago. I learned how to code 10 years ago. And prior to that, so yeah, I've been mostly doing Python and JavaScript for the past 10 years. But prior to that, I came from a biomedical sciences background, studied biology and stuff. And I got into tech by taking a coding bootcamp in 2017, which is about 10 years ago. And on the first day of a coding bootcamp, my coding bootcamp instructor said, I want to break the news to you that you are not here to learn how to code. And when he said that, I was like, wait, this is a coding bootcamp, and you're telling me I'm not here to learn how to code? That's confusing. And then he followed up by saying, you're here to learn how to solve problems. And coding before 30 years ago was little stamp cards, right? Or, and even before that, it was wires, right? So you're an engineer at heart. What you're really here to learn how to do you're not really here to learn how to code per se. You're here to learn how to solve problems and how to articulate your reasoning and logic to a computer in a way that a computer can understand and compile, which happens to be coding. And in the future, you might not need to know this particular language anymore that you're learning. In the future, you might need to learn a different language. And who knows what's going to happen even after that language. And guess what? Now, agents are doing the coding for us. And it's important to keep in mind the bigger picture of what problems we're trying to solve and what trade-offs there are in the different approaches that we're going to take to get there. Because there's going to be many ways to solve the problem, and being able to articulate the trade-offs based on the business use case and understanding the business, and there's always going to be a trade-off, but which trade-offs are going to be more optimized for the business in these problem solving that we're doing as engineers. It's important to stay grounded to that, because even with all these powerful agents now, that still applies for my coding bootcamp. I haven't had to type syntax in a while.
You and me both. Yeah, it's been a minute.
So that's it. That's my closing remarks. Always look to be solving problems and understanding the bigger picture and trade-offs in the business.
Yeah, and that doesn't change even though we're going through lots of changes right now. That's yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Rob, and yeah, I hope to catch you outside of the venue here sometime. And really loved your both your talk and your workshop.
I appreciate it. Thank you all for having me. I appreciate all the support from this wonderful Frontend Nation staff and organizers. You guys did an amazing job. I look forward to doing more events with you all in the future. And also everyone in the comments and the participation, I'm very impressed and very grateful for your participation. Even if your comments was related to maybe like, some frustration about something not working, I totally understand. That's life. We'll follow up with you and make sure, you get unblocked. But as a former coding bootcamp instructors, participation and engagement is really what makes me feel really proud to serve you all.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Rob. You have a great day, sir.